Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off, because today I'll be sharing a bit of a how to play, as well as my review of Pam Am from Funko Games. Does this light, family-friendly game set in the golden age of air travel really take flight? Or, like its historical counterpart, does Pam Am simply flame out? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As mentioned in the open, today I'll be sharing a bit of a how to play, as well as my review of Pam Am from Funko Games. This was designed for Funko by Prospero Hall. The game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in around an hour, and does carry an MSRP of $34.99. So without further ado, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Pam Am set up. So first, before we dive in, do want to mention the fine folks over at Funko Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy of Pam Am, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share my thoughts about this game with you. These days, it's important that you know that. Also, I am just going to kind of share a bit of a stream of consciousness sort of review. I don't script out my reviews or anything like that. So just so you know, there might be some small errors as I discuss the game. I don't think there should be. We've played this game enough times that I pretty well understand it inside and out. So the premise of Pam Am is each of the players operates a small airline, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to establish routes to sell to Pam Am. So this is an important concept to keep in mind, because most players, when they first sit down and they're going to play Pam Am, think that their airline is supposed to compete with Pam Am, and that is not the case. You're actually trying to sell your routes off to Pam Am to earn money in order to buy Pam Am stock. So in order to win the game, you have to have the most Pam Am stock. That's these cards right here. If there's a tie, then whoever's got the most leftover money is the winner. But it's all about the stocks. It's not about how many routes you own or the length of routes or anything like that. In fact, you're better served if you don't have many routes at the end of the game, period. All right. So we're going to kind of tour around the board. This is worker placement. There's a bit of set collecting as well involved in Pam Am. I will mention that the component quality is pretty nice. Nice thick board here. Cardstock's pretty nice. They're not linen finish, but still, we do have kind of the standard Euro-sized game cards. They do have rounded corners, though, so I will mention that. We've got 4 different models of aircraft in our hangars here. So we've got tri-motors, we've got clippers, we've got jumbo jets. So we've got those 4 different types of aircraft, and that's going to make up your fleet. So as you can see, we've got them in 4 different colors to correspond with the player colors as well. So each of the players is going to get a little mat that they're going to utilize. They're going to track their income, put their unused fleet on here as well, and then we get a breakdown of how the round will work out. So each of the players is going to start off with a couple of tri-motors, which have a range of 1, and a clipper that has a range of 2. And if you notice on the board here, we have all these different routes, and you'll see we've got numbers as well. So the routes do have different colors to determine what region they are. Some have 2 different colors. So for an example, from Beijing to Paris has 2 region colors available to it, and it is a distance of 4. That you would not be able to claim that route until later on in the game because you don't have aircraft that's going to travel for until most likely round 6 of the 7 rounds of the game, which is when the jumbo jet technology becomes available. We have destination cards. You're going to use destination cards to claim landing rights in various different cities. And if you own the card with the city's name, you can get landing rights there, and you get to hang on to that card to use later on for something else. If you have a region card, so as an example, let's say I was looking at Shanghai and I had this Calcutta card, I could discard this card in order to get landing rights in Shanghai. Or I can also discard 2 cards of any region to score landing rights in a city. In order to claim a route, you must have an available aircraft that can fly that distance, and you must be able to have landing rights in the 2 destinations. You can also have landing rights by owning an airport in that city, and we have our little airport miniature here, our little it's our like control tower that we utilize. We also have engineers, which is what we use as our worker placement to claim different actions each round. So to kind of give you an idea how the game plays out, you're going to start each round with an event card. There are 4 event cards for each round that are available. You're only going to use 1. So there's a bit of replayability built into that. So you're not going to have the same exact events taking place each and every time you play the game. Each of the players are going to get their little aircraft mat, or I should say airline mat. I was going to say it's not the most exciting looking mat out there, but it serves its purpose. It's fine. So here I'm utilizing Grand Olympian Air as my airline, and I have an income of 0. Money is hard to come by in this game, so I noticed a lot of players start like spending way too much money early on and then finding their hands kind of tied later without any way to get any cash. If you have stock, you can sell stock from Pam Am, but early on, you're probably not going to be buying much stock until you start selling your routes. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off with an event. Well, actually, I take that back. Let's discuss what each of the players is going to get. Each of the players are going to have a couple of destination cards to start off with. So here I've got San Francisco as well as Bangkok. And I definitely dig the travel agency poster style artwork on all of these cards. And they all have different artwork, the different cities. Now, there are multiple copies of each city, but each of the cities does have unique artwork, which I thought was pretty cool. So these are my 2 cards I've got. And then you're going to start with a directive card. And directive cards are kind of like special bonuses, extra bonuses. You get directive cards by actually placing your engineers, your workers, in the directive area in order to score the cards. And you get to draw 2 and keep 1. So you draw 2, keep 1, discard the other. So to give you an idea, let's see, what does this say? When resolving your engineer, pay $2 to place an airport, and it takes place in the D portion of the round, which is when we're claiming routes. So that's kind of interesting. That's actually a very cool card. So as an example, we're just going to have those cards, and they're hidden. That's not going to be open for everybody to see until I play, say, a destination card. If I didn't have to discard it, then I'm going to leave that out in front of me. So to begin the round, we're going to take an event card. So here we have event number 1 is Foundation of Pan Am. There we go. 1927. At the start of the expansion phase, Pan Am expands once along the Asian Pacific Path. And I'll explain how the expansion works as well. So we're going to have a stock price of 4. So that's going to be the opening stock price. And we have a Pan Am die that we're going to roll at the end of the round. And it's going to be the expansion period. And that's when we see Pan Am start to gobble up routes that we don't own or buy routes from us as well. So that is our event. We're going to put that current event right there in front of us. And let's say I'm the first player. So I have choices here. I can choose to build an airport. I have to pay for that airport. I can choose to try to get a destination card that we've got shown out here. So we've got 4 of those available there. I can purchase aircraft to add to my fleet. I can claim a route. Or I can get directive cards. When you find that you don't have much cash on hand, you're going to be turning to the directives quite a bit, or possibly adding a tri-motor to your fleet. Of course, as you can see, because these are color-coded, there is a limitation to how many aircraft of each type you can have in your fleet at any one time. This is our Pan Am die as well. So taking a look at the cards I've got. So I've got Bangkok, which is here. I've got San Francisco, which is here. I should point out that Pan Am will expand out of Miami. So I've got San Francisco, I've got Bangkok. So I take a look over here, and I also see we've got Calcutta. So right here, I could possibly get a route. Now remember, I'm first player, so I'm going to get to go first. So I could buy an airport, and I could place it anywhere on the board, and that's going to give me landing rights in that city. Or I could actually probably save some money by trying to get this Calcutta card and then looking to claim that route later on. So I'm pretending this is a 4-player game. In a 4-player game, you are going to have 3 engineers to utilize. You'll also notice that we have values running up. So if I wanted to try to block someone out of doing something, let's say, and you'll see this happen with the destination cards in the airports more often than you will, like, say, aircraft. But let's say, for an example, I wanted to make it tougher on people to get an airport. I could decide to put my engineer there at the 5. So that means anybody after me who wants to purchase an airport are going to have to spend either 7 or 9. So if somebody after me wanted to get an airport, they would go, okay, there they go there. And then the last player would end up, if they want an airport, they're going to end up paying 9, which is a lot, considering you start off with 12 megabucks or whatever you want to consider it. And once again, as I pointed out, cash is not easy to come by in this game. So as an example, let's say I go first. I decide, all right, I'm going to put my engineer here, and I'm going to actually pay 2, hopefully, to get the Calcutta card. I could have gone to 0 and gotten it for free if nobody outbids me on that card. But it's possible somebody else might have something like New Delhi or Karachi. Maybe they want the Calcutta card too. So once again, I decide to do that. Let's say the yellow player says, yeah, they want to buy an airport. Then we've got the gray player and the green player. Gray player says, oh, I want Buenos Aires, but they don't want to bid any money on it. And then the gray player comes along and says, oh, well, I actually want that more than you do, so I'm going to pay 2. Then it would come back to me. I would say, okay, so I'm going to claim a route. And of course, there are a limited number of these spaces. So, like many worker placement games, a lot of times there is much more demand for whatever that area provides than what's available to you. So keep that in mind as well. So we'll just go around. All right, let's see. Yellow was next. Say yellow wants Reykjavik. And then we had gray. Gray's going to get a directive card. And then green is going to build an airport. So it comes back around to me. Might as well get a directive. It's usually kind of cool little bonuses that you can get. Sometimes you can sell aircraft. Sometimes you can do other things as well. So I'm going to do that. And then we get to the yellow player. And the yellow player says, hey, I want a directive as well. Gray player says they're going to claim a route. And then lastly, the green player, they're going to claim a route as well. Just as an example. So then, once everybody is placed, all their engineers, we're going to resolve the different areas A, B, C, D, E, and then we'll go into the expansion phase. So first thing we would do is yellow player gets to buy an airport, and they would place an airport. Then, of course, then they have to pay. And if you bid for something that you don't have enough money for, you have to sell Pan Am stock if you own it in order to pay for whatever you've bid on. And if you still don't have enough money, you just lose money. You lose all your money and get nothing. So it's very important that you do not bid on things that you can't afford to pay for. And I got to be honest, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen with a couple of players. So you got to sort of pay attention to what's going on here. All right, so then the green player, they buy their airport. Might as well grab these airports and put them out here for you. Let's see. So yellow player puts their airport in Paris. Now, if there's an airport in a city, then you can't put your airport there. So they claim Paris, and then the green player, let's see, they decide they're going to claim, let's say, Buenos Aires. Because remember, they wanted Buenos Aires, but they got outbid on that card. So we would have, there's the airport. So the airports have been claimed. Then we go to our destination cards. So we're going to just resolve these. Reykjavik would cost nothing for the yellow player. We would replace that with Honolulu. Of course, we would be resolving this in the order of the player. Like, I'm first player. We should have been doing Calcutta, and I was paying two cash for my Calcutta card. And then replacing that. So they didn't have to pay anything. That engineers effectively lost. And the gray player would pay two for their Buenos Aires card. Then we go to aircraft. Nobody bought any aircraft, so we don't have to worry about that. Now we're going to establish routes. So I have the Bangkok card, so that would give me landing rights. You must have landing rights in a city, in the two connecting cities. You have to have landing rights to claim a route. So I have the Bangkok card. I also have the Calcutta card. I do not need to discard these because they are the actual cities themselves, and that allows me to claim this route, which I will place one of my tri-motors on, that has a range of 1, and that will boost up my income 1. Creating routes, claiming routes, You get the distance as income. So as an example, Beijing to Paris would be worth 4. Now, when you sell it to Pan Am, it's going to be worth far more than that. Also, placing an airport is going to increase your income as well. You only have 5 airports total. And once you've placed all 5, you can move airports. So if let's say the yellow player, they had all their airports out and they purchase a new airport, they'll move one of those airports to the new location. Their income does not increase. So the most you can have from your airport's income is 5. And it's important as you sell routes to Pan Am to remember to adjust your income, because once you lose that route, that income is gone. So if you sell a route that's worth 2, a distance of 2, you have to remove that from your income. So it's important to keep an eye on that. It's important to keep an eye on that with the other players as well, because sometimes they forget. So I would still have Bangkok and Calcutta sit out in front of me, showing I've got these 2 cards. So we were resolving the routes. I could also pay 2, because I've got my directive card. I could pay 2 more cash and I can place an airport, which is what I will do. I'll pay my 2 and I will place that there. So that's kind of a bonus. And remember, looking at these directive cards, they will tell you when these take place. So that's when you utilize it. All right, so then we would have the other players setting up their routes. So as an example, the gray player would be sitting there. They don't have any other airports, so they wouldn't be able to create a route. But then we also had Paris and Reykjavik. So for the yellow player, they didn't put down to create a route, so they wouldn't be able to do it. So it's with this game, with your worker placement, you really have to pay attention to what's going on, because it is easy for someone to be like, oh yeah, well, I can do this. And they place an engineer. And then when we go to resolve that, suddenly there's nothing they can do. So for an example, trying to claim a route when there's no way for you to actually establish the landing rights in the 2 cities. So, or having, an airport that's not connecting to anything that you've got a card for to collect and create a route there as well. So then we're going to go to the directives once everybody's established their routes. And once again, you would get to choose 2 and keep 1 and discard the other. So Pan Am Advisory Board, sell one of your routes to Pan Am, and that is in the expansion phase, otherwise known as the Pan Am phase. And then this is Lucky Rights. Look at the top 4 cards of the destination deck. Keep 1, discard the rest. And that's during the reveal phase, which is the first phase when we check out to see what the event is. I would actually take this because I own a route. I'd like to sell it to Pan Am. So I'd say, okay, I'm keeping this one. Once again, it's a secret. Discard this out. And then everybody gets their directives cards. Then what you're going to do is you're going to move on to the expansion. So it's the expansion phase. And we already know we're going to roll this die once. But at the start of the expansion phase, Pan Am is going to expand once along the Asian Pacific path. So you'll see some of these routes have different little designs to them. That's where Pan Am is going to expand. Now, Pan Am will buy routes that do not have these on it, but when we roll our dice, or die, I should say, for Pan Am, it's going to tell us where they move out to. So we already know they're going to expand along the Asian Pacific path. So the Asian Pacific path is over here. So they're going to go from Miami to Havana. So they're going to claim that route. So now we as the players can't build that route. We can't do anything with that route. Pan Am already has established that route. Then we're going to roll a die. If we get the Pan Am symbol, that means Pan Am buys routes from the players. One route from each of the players. So we're going to roll this. So we also see we have this design. So we've got some which is just one. I should say we've got the one that's got one. And then the rest all have two expansions. And then we have the Pan Am symbol. So we just saw that they're going to expand again into the Asian Pacific path, which is going to go from Havana to Mexico City. And as far as distances, it doesn't matter for Pan Am. So, for an example, if they were continuing, they went San Francisco to Honolulu, but we didn't have the cruiser available yet, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to Pan Am. They don't worry about those route numbers. All right. So, as we see, Pan Am wasn't going to buy any routes from anybody this round, but I have this in my expansion phase. I can play that and sell a route. So I'm going to sell that. I'm going to sell this route to Pan Am, and it's one. It's a distance of one. So I would get 5 megabucks for it. So I would get the 5, and at the end of the phase, we can buy stock in Pan Am. So what I would do is I'll say, okay, I'll take that 5, but I'm going to only take one of it. I'm going to spend 4 because that's what the stock price is, and get me a Pan Am stock, because once again, at the end of the day, it's Pan Am stock that wins you the game. Don't forget. So that's how you play out a round. So you're going to go through 7 rounds, and then at the finale of the 7th round, you're going to total up your stock. Whoever's got the most stock is the winner. And if there's a tie, and we've seen this happen a lot, that there is a tie with the number of stock that players own, whoever's got the most money is the tiebreaker. And if it's still tied after that, then both the players share a victory. And there you have it. That is Pan Am and how to essentially play the game. So let's swing on over to the other camera. So I'm going to share some final thoughts as well as my review score. So it's my understanding that Pan Am is a bit of a hit, a surprise hit, I should say, for Funko Games. And playing the game, I gotta say, it's no surprise because the game is a lot of fun. It's got a little bit of meat on its bones. So there's some strategizing that goes on, like you saw in the round that I was playing out. I was like, okay, well, I've got this card for one city already. There's one that I could connect to that's over in the destination cards. So let me plan for that. And then make sure that I have an engineer so I can drop that off to claim a route. And then, boom, I got a destination card that allowed me to sell that route right away. So there's a lot of different little wrinkles to the gameplay to keep in mind. I will point out the rules are not long at all, but maybe 12 pages. Okay, 14 pages. But there's a lot of examples in here as well. There's a lot of images in that. But it was not as intuitive as I would have liked to have seen this rule book. There were a couple of things. Now, I can't remember exactly what they were because it's been a little bit of time since I originally played this. I have played it quite a few times afterward. In fact, the funny thing is, I've been asked to bring this with me to a gaming get-together with my brother and my best friend Elliot and his son. His son has not played Pan Am. I have been asked to bring Pan Am with so we can play it tomorrow. But What I was going to say is when we first were learning how to play the game, there were a couple of things we were trying to find because we weren't sure about, and they just weren't where we'd expect to find it in the rule book. We eventually tracked them down. One of the items, it was something that we kept looking a few times, and it was like, it's got to be in this book. And it was. It just wasn't where I was expecting it to be. So do want to mention that. I would have liked to have seen the rule book to be a bit more intuitive. It's a little obtuse in some ways. Not completely, understandable, but I would have liked to have seen it tweaked a little bit. If you're a fan of games like, say, Ticket to Ride, it's a no-brainer for you to pick up Pam Am. It does have a little more depth, in my opinion, and it's been a while since I played Ticket to Ride. It's got more depth in it than Ticket to Ride, but it is about as difficult to wrap your head around as Ticket to Ride. Like it a lot. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. It is one of those games that has to kind of, sit near my car or in my car to be able to be brought with me from time to time, because everybody who's played it with me has really, really dug it. It's taken me this long to get a review out for it because the person whose house it was at last, I let them hang on to it, and then they got COVID. Bad. So they're doing okay now, but that's why it's taken me so long. Actually, COVID's just been terrible as far as me getting board game reviews out there. Because for one, it's been difficult to get enough people together enough times to play something to give it a review. Because remember, here at the Gaming Gang, with the board games and that, we play them 3 times at least before they get a review. All in all, on a scale from 0 to 10, I give Pam Am a very, very solid recommendation. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Everyone I know has enjoyed it as well. And as I had mentioned, it's a bit of a surprise hit for Funko Games, but when you play it, it's no surprise at all. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for watching. And here's hoping each and every one of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. See you next time. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.